Hey, good evening. Thank you for joining us on the Political Deep Dive tonight. I am Dave Valente. Tonight we are talking about globalization. I'll just give a little bit of preface to this show. So, when I was getting my grad degree in 2006 to 2008, and even my bachelor's degree, the big topic of conversation when it came to any international affairs degrees or diplomacy or political anything politics that focused internationally was the idea of globalization, economically integrating countries, politically integrating countries. That period saw, just a plethora of free trade agreements and international agreements that brought countries together that have been historic enemies, and now we've seen that kind of fade over the last few years. We've seen a wave of nationalism that have washed across the shores of especially the United States, Russia. We see kind of old uh, enemies reappearing once again, and new ones appearing on the horizon. So tonight, I wanted to bring that topic to the forefront, and we'll bring on our co-host from Tennessee, Miss AJ. She
Hey
didn't start
there.
the fire. Did you bring any gasoline though?
Well, there's always a little Miranda Lambert tucked in,
There
just in
you
case you.
go. Yeah. And from Maryland, Dan the Man Fishman.
So you got your master's degree. What? You're my master now? Is that what you're
I,
saying?
I am a master of the universe.
All right.
Yeah, yeah,
E-man.
yeah. Yeah, so yeah, one of the books I had to read during my master's program was and I put the title in the description of tonight's episode, called "The World Is Flat," and it's not what you think. It's not about flat Earth theory or anything like that. It's the concept that um, the way that things had gone in the post-Soviet world, where the United States had kind of emerged as the dominant hegemon, that the world craved globalization, especially with the internet and things like that. Trade deals were coming through. That the world was flattening out. It wasn't this globe that you couldn't see on the other side of. That it flattened out. You could see. I can point a camera and see what's going on in Saudi Arabia or Chad or China. Um, I can talk to somebody instantaneously across the world. Um, and for the longest time, especially in the 90s and the 2000s, up until I'm going to say probably right when I got my master's degree in 2008, it really was kind of the dominant theory of what was going on, that we were going to be a global community. There was some resistance, the people, the one world government type, uh, conspiracy theories type stuff. But really, it was more of the idea of global trade, global things making us more interconnected, more reliant on one another. Um, and since that collapse in 2008 and through the last decade, we have seen the reemergence of really, throwing up those borders, throwing up the tariffs, and throwing up all this stuff to prevent the free trade and the things that we think are good when it comes to interconnectedness. Um, so yeah, that's where I came at this from. Is globalism, is it dead or is it resting?
I don't think it went anywhere. Right? I mean, what's the most popular cell phone on the planet? It's the iPhone, made here in the United States. It's actually not true. Technically speaking, Android phones are much more popular, but in the United States, iPhones are popular. And among the wealthy around the world, the iPhone is a huge status symbol.
Sure.
Even when I was a kid, the Blues Brothers had a song where they would say, how come everybody says they hate us, but people are doing flips and twists to get into a pair of American blue jeans? We are the dominant cultural leader of the world. And the reason why is because we actually don't have any culture except for permissiveness, right? Anybody do whatever the hell you want. That is American culture. And that's what everybody loves, right? It's the idea that you can do your own thing. If you want to be, a stick in the mud, like I'm looking at you, Saudi Arabia, where women property, uh, then you could do that thing. But the people who live in your country are going to look at us. We're going to be on the, somebody told me to stick to the topic. What?
Stick to the topic, Dan.
Uh, we are the shining light. And so globalization hasn't gone anywhere. If anything, even during COVID, you saw an example of how globalization is even more prevalent than it ever has been, right? The United States shipped vaccines around the world to everybody who wanted to do all that stuff, to who wanted to be vaccinated. Aid around the world. Of course, there's some bad side effects to it. If you look at like what's happening in Africa with harvesting gold from cell phones using toxic chemicals and all the stuff that's happening.
Well, it's not even just that. It's that it's kind of a lot of people will describe it as neocolonialism, and that China is doing this Belt and Road Initiative where they're extracting these rare earth minerals to be able to build these cell phones and the batteries for our Teslas and all this stuff. That we there are some definitely bad side effects, and we can look at Africa because Africa generally is the punching bag of what goes on in this world. Um, and they're not blessed with fantastic governance from their leadership, that are willing to sell the population down the road for a little bit.
There's a great movie that illustrates this called Darwin's Nightmare, about Lake Tanganyika, which was home to the Egyptian pike, and I'm probably getting it a little bit wrong, but this fish that is incredibly valuable in Europe and a delicacy, but it's a predator fish and it eats the other fish in there. And they introduced it into Lake Tanganyika. Somebody can look it up.
Tanganyika, I think it's
Lake Tanganyika. And the perch became the dominant fish there. But it was so valuable that the people who had depended on the other fish to live couldn't afford to fish anymore. They could only, sell that. And then the large scale commercial fishermen were coming in and catching these big, really valuable fish that were eating everything else. And so, that's the worst of globalism. And
we can just introduce the Asian carp down there and take care of the expensive fish.
Well, and an interesting thing is people are not aware of the globalism effect. You hear the phrase banana republic, but they're not aware of the fact that phrase comes from the fact that we are, if you're not aware, living in the middle of the banana holocaust. There is chances are, for me, we used to always say, our parents used to talk about it. For most of our listeners, your grandparents will probably tell you bananas used to taste a lot better. They're not just being old crazy people. We actually had different types of bananas back in the day. But the banana holocaust is a virus that's so bad when it infects a banana plantation, you can't get rid of it and you can't regrow it. All you can do is burn the plantation to the ground. I'm not even kidding. They burn it to the ground with fire to stop the spread, but it still spreads eventually. Banana republics were the idea that people who used to grow bananas for Dole and other companies needed more land to grow more bananas. And so Dole and other banana shipping companies would sponsor these revolutions, these banana republics, so that they could get the land and grow more bananas. So globalism has done all these crazy things all the time.
Mm-hmm.
It is But it's also, the alternative to globalism is isolationism, and that's it.
Well, it's not. I mean, there's I think we're in the process right now of retreating, and yeah, you and I are yearning to breathe free and yearning to see other cultures, and we'll look into other things. As citizens, we want to do that. We want to see the best in other people. We want to look beyond our borders, but our governments are pulling everything back. I mean, the Trump administration slapped on tariffs on Chinese goods. China slapped on tariffs on their goods. The Asian tiger syndrome back in the 80s, 70s, and 80s was built on something called import substitute industrialization, where it they were able to build their industrial base within their country and become very successful at doing so, making things, all that stuff. But then when it came to converting from an import substitution to, free market trading, they didn't know how to give up on that.
Yeah.
The local market didn't want to give up on that. Those people that made that money did not want to give up on that because they had made so much money in that system. So they're afraid to go to a more free market system.
And I mean, there is some cases too where governments say, like, for example, an anti-globalism act by the American government would be the Jones Act, right?
Oh
Which
God, yeah.
forbids forbids foreign flagged ships from traveling between American ports to deliver goods. And that's an example of a horrific thing. Japan and China, people don't know this, but the United States actually grows more rice than China. Why? Because we're unbelievably good farmers, and they're communists. So they don't really have an incentive to grow a lot. But are we allowed to import rice into China or Japan? No. Both those countries feel like rice is a critical crop, and so they have to be able to feed themselves, and they don't want Americans coming in there. I get it, but it's wrong. To Lorenzo's point, and what's up, Lorenzo? Hola. In an ideally free market, you would say, you know what? America should be growing rice because they're really good at it. And in China, we should be doing whatever it is we're really good at. You know what? You want a wall, Trump? The Chinese have got the experience. They can build great walls. And but that's the way globalism should be working, is that people should be playing to their strengths instead of what's broken, where governments try to protect markets, to protect what they believe is their own sovereign interests, but also to maintain the stranglehold. They try to maintain the stranglehold on culture. I'm a person who believes very strongly that there's the Ron Paul argument. 9/11 had something to do with blowback, but also it had to do with the expansion of American culture. Okay, when Britney Spears shows up on the in a poster with a bare midriff, oops, I did it again, and devout Muslims are seeing their kids putting those posters up. Women thinking independently, whatever you think else about Britney, she certainly was not,
Not quite independent.
exactly. She wasn't needing a burqa, that sort of thing. When you have those things showing up, those are the people who want to stop globalism. They want to stop international culture spread. They want to contain their own fiefdoms.
Well, I mean, we see it here. I mean, when you think about Moms for Liberty or things like that, they want to protect their culture and keep, the
Moms for Liberty. You mean Planned Parenthood?
Planned Parenthood,
That's-
Twatsies,
Twatsies.
We like that one a lot. Like that one a
with
lot.
casseroles.
No, controlling people is definitely a reason to not have globalization, to not have those connections, to have the isolation. That makes sense. What are some amazing benefits that we get if we had the free market globalization in
It's
the
the open
ideal libertarian world?
well, it's the open exchange of ideas, goods, and services that um, you're able to innovate, yeah, to be able to gain market share, yeah, to be able to uh, you know get your stake in the world. You have to innovate. You have to build a better mousetrap because if you're just going to continue to stick at how the mousetrap now, yeah, mousetrap is fairly efficient, but um,
No, but
you
like
know,
longtime listeners, you can throw it up in the comments. What's my favorite libertarian book? Do you remember, Dave?
is it economics of one lesson?
No, it
Oh, okay.
is The Fatal Conceit
Oh,
by
there. Right.
Frederick Hayek. And in it, he talks about the fact that every success that you see is built on top of 999 failures. And it has to be that way because they all fail until we get to the really good model. And so by bringing in other models of how things are done, we get better ourselves. And you can point to a lot of technology and sales and business ways of doing business and products that have come to American shores and taken over the market. I'm trying to think of something off the top of my head. I
What, our shores? I mean,
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, cars like Honda, Nissan,
great,
taking
great
market share.
example. Great
Yeah.
example, right? That's an example of globalization because
EVs.
it now again, this is sort of an age thing, but Dave and I remember when American cars were terrible. They were just terrible and they broke down. And in fact, American cars were so bad that during the 80s, the government had a bailout program where they forced the government to buy American cars because American cars were so bad. And yet, what happened was that because of competition,
Oh, no,
especially from the Japanese, American cars got a lot better. And in fact, cars in general have gotten so good that now you expect a car to run great for 10 years or so. And that's not the way cars used to be. Yeah, it's a perfect example of globalization making the products better around the world.
Thank
Medicine is a
you.
great example of this too.
yeah, medicine is definitely an example of this. I mean, think of all the people. Well, in people, I mean, just think of all the innovations that have come because, especially in the United States, because we have been the destination for very, very damn smart people. Um, bringing in their expertise to wherever they land in the United States. I mean, you can save everything from the nuclear weapon to medicine to uh, research, anything like uh, hell, what happened with the COVID virus? We lost Dan for a second.
I'm frozen, but I'm trying to fix it.
Let it go, Dan. Let it go.
You look really
Let it
serious, though, like
go.
super
Let it
professional.
go. One with
Oh,
the snow.
But yeah,
I'll get it. Hang on.
and you can't have a discussion about globalization and open market and open, free movement of goods and services without talking about the free movement of people as well.
mhm.
That's why I always have a problem with people talking about close the borders, not be open to refugees, and to me, you're hamstringing yourself by doing that.
I mean, it's socialism. We've talked
Yeah.
about it before. And,
Yep.
and let's talk about the fact that the opposite of globalism is socialism because socialism is control of the market. Okay. The government controlling the means of production. And when people, right, labor is a product, when labor isn't allowed to travel across borders because of government intervention, that is anti globalism. I sort of was leading into this earlier before Lorenzo said that I was getting off topic, but the idea that we put the right labor in the right place, that is globalism. The fact that for a long time we shipped making things to Japan, and then currently we're shifting making things to China, and eventually it's going to be shifted to Africa because that's where the cheapest labor is.
Yeah.
And as a society becomes wealthier, people don't want to do manual labor anymore. And
And
that's
that's
been
why
exemplified a million times in the United States.
yeah, and that's why you're seeing a ton of investment by the Chinese in Africa with their Belt and Road Initiative and throughout Central Asia as well, because they know, 1, you're getting it closest to the source of the product. So, you're getting these minerals out of these mines in Central Africa. Well, then you still gotta ship them all the way over to China. Well, if China can buy off the Congo, government to put factories into, Congo, employ local people, it's a win-win for the government because your people get employed, and they're able to have incredibly cheap labor and an incredibly cheap source of now these new, you know, lithium batteries to fuel, cars or whatever. So, um, yeah, I mean, that's why you're seeing China make these initiatives and this investment into Africa. It's not through some sort of altruism; it's to dominate the market eventually.
Yep. And to Tom's thing, Tom at the tender age of 13, it's important to remember that prior to World War II, when Tom is 13 years old, there's only one communist country in the world. Sorry, Tom, I couldn't resist that. But it is true that prior to World War II, there's only one communist country in the world.
I know what
Um,
Tom's response is going to be.
I'm pretty
Just
sure
3
it's going to be
words.
7 letters. Um, the But that thing about it, he's exactly right that China, and even before that, Japan, right? Commodore Perry, and good for me. Well, that's so nice, Tom. Thank
Yeah.
you. Commodore Perry, right, and forcing open Japan,
Yeah,
as a perfect example of that. Now, in many ways, that's bad globalism because it is a country using force to open markets. On the other hand, you know, it was uh, it was better for the people of Japan who previously were living under shogunate. So there is the good, there is the bad. It's the facts of life. Sorry.
You're just
so, I sent you guys a website, what was it? Our Role in Data, talking about, one of the things that we've seen globally, at least politically globally, is the retreat of, the rise of nationalism, the retreat back into our, nationalist, past. Um, and it doesn't have to be like extreme examples like, what Putin's doing in Russia or Orban's doing in Hungary. I mean, simply the Brits breaking off from the European Union. I mean, these are it's not the same. It's
Yeah.
not but it's still it's a retreat because they thought that they weren't getting the best deal for themselves
No,
internally.
no. Well, all right. I'm going to push back on that quite a bit. Uh, a couple big things happened along the way. So first of all, Belgium. I mean, the EU. They're talking about a different kind of globalism, right? They're not talking about global markets. They're talking about a global government. And why would anybody want to go to a more restrictive model, which is what the EU is
Sure.
pushing on? And in particular, they issued 2 just horrific edicts for Britain. Number one, they put a restriction on the electric kettles that they could buy, the things that like 90% of Britons used to make tea. And if you know anything about the British, they fucking love tea. Okay. Spilling it, drinking it, whatever it is, the British love tea. So Belgium makes this rule that says, okay, the way you're making tea is wrong. And then the second thing they do, and they get to push this through because the French, have a large majority, French, Italian, etc. They put all these regulations in that would make it illegal for the British to make Stilton cheese the way that they traditionally do it. And if you attack tea and Stilton, the British are going to be like, hey, we don't need to be in a group with you. And in fact, the EU is the opposite of globalism because
Oh
what they're
yeah,
actually doing is they're trying to control markets instead of letting
exactly.
them be free.
I don't disagree with that. I'm just saying that we are seeing more of a national. I mean, the Brexit debates were very nationalist,
Sure,
very couched in nationalism. So
sure.
and that's what I'm saying.
Well,
I'm
and I agree with
not
that.
going to defend the
UKIP,
EU at all.
a lot of the forces there. There's definitely a lot of anti-immigrant
Oh yeah, like
party
UKIP
in there, and that's different.
yeah.
And unfortunately, the way politics makes for strange bedfellows. And so on this issue, you do get nationalists and true free market people saying, well, we don't want to be bossed around by another country. And
Oh,
so we're
exactly. Yeah.
unified on that thing. But if you think about it, I mean, there's a lot of that stuff in terms of the United States, right? The fact that we never signed on to Kyoto, withdrew from Paris.
Not part of the International Criminal Court. Yeah, I mean, we've
Section
all the
21
way
or Agenda
all the way
21,
back
whatever that is.
all the way back to the League of Nations. I mean, like we'll set shit up. We won't join it.
Yeah, exactly. And the reason that why we won't is because we know that we are the freest country in the world. Nobody else is going to agree with our standard of freedom. And to that extent, why would we ever agree to live by rules that somebody else has made? Now, where things get really scary is when governments do agree that they're going to work globally to suppress the free market of people. And there's a lot of that shit going on.
Oh yeah.
Like a great example is international patents, right? So India does not allow medical patents. They don't honor medical patents. And their rationale is that medical patents are murder. If you can't get the medicine that you need because it's too expensive, that's ridiculous. And so if somebody can make it cheaper and sell it to you, sure, let them do it. The similarly, and this is sort of a crazy one, but for a long time, actually, this is still true. You can't play poker, online poker, legally with a foreign casino online, which is crazy. In fact, there's that guy in Dallas who's in jail. I can't think of his name right now. The PokerStars CEO, who actually is an American citizen, and he wasn't even doing anything in Dallas. The company is based in Costa Rica. He was flying between London and Costa Rica, had to fly through Dallas, and was arrested there, and he's in jail for operating a casino on the internet.
That's another good one. Chuck Moulton just put in there.
Why don't you talk about Dr. Moulton's example?
Yeah, the colluding together to erode bank secrecy. So 15, 20 years ago, if you wanted to have a bank account in a foreign country that held a lot of your assets, whatever reason you wanted to do it, a lot of people used it to evade taxes, which I have no problem with. So the GA really colluded together, to put the screws to a lot of countries like Switzerland, the Cayman Islands, places that really had strong banking secrecy laws to really kind of freeze them out until they agreed to allow their banks to be kind of interconnected within the global banking structure, and to stop the flouting of tax laws.
And what's crazy about that is, there's that, and you see it happening more on the information scale too, of the way the government is reading people's email in the United States, and now trying to do it in foreign countries as well. And they do it in a warrantless way, because what they're doing right now is they're just copying all the information, supposedly, and not reading it, but so they can go back and read it anytime they want to. Which
they've got AI bots.
Yeah, well, which is going to lead us into our quantum computing conversation relatively soon, because I'm really into quantum computing this week.
Oh, very nice. But yeah, it's definitely going to, like, here's one thing that frustrated me to no end. Like, you're on Facebook, and all of a sudden you get a notification that your being banned for a week or two because of something you posted in 2014 or 2012
Right.
that has suddenly run afoul of their rules, you're going to start seeing people get popped for things, and we may already see people getting popped for things because of the global collection of data
Yep.
that they're going back and saying, "Oh, in 2016, you arranged a drug sale, uh, over email, and we have all the evidence right here, and are going to send people up the river for something they did years and years ago." I mean, thankfully, we've got statute of limitations on things, but how long before those get abrogated?
Well, and think about the stuff that you can get in trouble for that isn't illegal now, but is illegal in a foreign country, or might be illegal at some point in the future, right?
Yep.
Will there be a retroactive punishment of people who help women with reproductive rights? Right? I mean, I
Absolutely.
would be worried about that.
Yep.
I am pretty sure that I'm going to be banned on Facebook because I made all those Winnie the Pooh, Xi Jinping postings.
This show will be taken down because you have mentioned it.
Exactly. I mean, frankly, I think we might take it down ourselves because we don't want to lose the Chinese market.
Exactly. We're big in China. Yeah. So, I mean, you made the point earlier about it's either globalism or socialism. Um, so, it is inherently a capitalist thing that the free flow of goods and services also includes money across borders. So, it is a capitalist ideal. Um, how big of a threat do you think income inequality is going to be to global capitalism?
I don't think it is a significant threat. Well, here's the thing. All right. Let me get on my socialist hat. Because we are on the cusp of a different revolution than the world has ever seen before. Okay. And we've had revolutions in the past, right? I mean, we had the fire revolution. A lot of people didn't think fire was going to catch on. Fire
Fire
actually was
thought.
hot. Exactly. Fire, the wheel, silverware, all that stuff. Finally, we get into like real revolutions, right? The agricultural revolution, domesticating animals, the industrial revolution, which changes a lot of stuff, right? When the industrial revolution happens, the world becomes wealthier in that year because people can now produce so much more stuff. Then the communications revolution, and then the computer revolution. We are on the cusp of the AI robotic revolution, and that's going to be pretty astonishing. And did I mention that I'm really hot on quantum computing right now?
Oh, so yeah.
That's going to be a whole nother level. But we are at a point in time where machines are very close to being able to take the burden of physical labor from our shoulders. And that is going to be a huge deal. Okay. It won't be worth it anymore. It will not be worth it anymore to hire a person to work on a field. I've seen these recently, right? The robots that tend farms now, they do it in small areas, but you don't have to use pesticides anymore. So it's so much better for everybody else. These robots like go around and they kill all the pests that they see and they pull all the weeds up, and they do this tirelessly, and then they can pick the fruit.
Every time I think of this, I think of that video where they have the robot going back and forth getting packages, and he just shuts his own shit down. He just like shuts down, falls down on the ground.
Right.
Like he's
Exactly.
like, "Fuck this job." Boom.
But the thing is that they won't do that. And so, in my socialist hat, which I have a little bit of, I'll wear it occasionally.
Is it red?
I think about what it is red. I think about what does it mean that the people who will build the robots and control them, the robots that take all these jobs away, are going to be the giant companies. What does it mean for most people that their labor, the value of their labor, will be worthless? that there's not anything that they can do that has any value. What does that mean in a world where we expect people to define their value through work? And I do think that that day might be coming. And I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen. So in that level, when I think about wealth inequality, yeah, there's something going on there. I mean, my answer to that. That's why I'm a geo-libertarian as opposed to other branches of libertarianism. But,
explain what a geo-libertarian is.
Geo-libertarian believes that, here's the fancy word for today. It's usufruct, USUFRUCT. And it is the idea that you can use something so long as you're using it doesn't prevent other people from also being able to use it. So Thomas Jefferson said the earth belongs in usufruct to the living. So we are allowed to use the earth, but we can't use it up. It has to be there for future generations as well. So as an example, one of the things that geo-libertarians will say is that, okay, if we talk about oil that's in the earth, nobody made that oil. Okay, so you can't say that oil belongs to any one person. However, if somebody wants to mine that oil, pump that oil out of the earth, they ought to be allowed to do it. But they are now converting what had been property owned by the public into their own private property. And so when they do that, they have to pay the public a fee for taking that out. And as an example, there are many examples of things like that. The citizens, excuse me, the citizens' dividend in Alaska is like that. Oil companies pay for every barrel of oil that they pump out of Alaska, and that money goes to the people of Alaska. It's not a bad, in my opinion, it's not a bad idea, libertarianism. How else do you deal with resources like that are finite, like fishing, for example, right? I've been lucky enough to live in a few fishing communities, New England, Gulf of Mexico, where the amount of fishermen increased every year and the amount of fish decreased every year. And that's a problem.
Yeah.
How do you maintain that? How do you fix that? Well, the right way to do it is for everybody to agree on a fishing license and say, you know what, if you want to fish, okay,
quota and all that stuff,
right?
Yeah.
But there you pay a fee for every fish that you take out of the ocean to the general public, and then you need to be able, you can sell the fish for more than that, but you are taking the fish that belong to the general public. Now, what does that do? Well, when you have something like that, it actually encourages people to say, you know what, I don't want to have fish in the public market anymore. I'm going to have my own fish farm, and I'm going to create my own fish and alleviate that problem. When you have that idea, now it's hard for people to create oil, but there are other examples of things that they can create and eliminate some of these problems. So wealth inequality. Wealth inequality is less now than it ever has been at any point in history. Even though we have more billionaires now than we've ever had. In fact, trivia question, who knows who the first billionaire was? John D. Rockefeller was the first.
He got there?
Yeah, excuse me. However, we say that he's the first billionaire because at that point in time, we don't really have an assessment of the wealth of royalty. Real wealth inequality is Pharaoh and Hebrew slaves. Okay, sure. That's crazy stuff. Here, now I think 95% of the world lives in a place that at least pretends to have legitimate elections. And obviously, Chinese elections aren't real. Russian elections aren't real. Iranian elections aren't real. But we have a pretense to that. So there's the wealth inequality now when we're talking about it. It's less of a problem because so many people have so much more. Even if you are dirt poor in the United States, you probably have a flat screen TV. Chances are pretty good that, you have access to a store where you can go and buy bananas in the winter. Even if you live in sort of a food desert, you have hot and running water in your house, usually. Like luxuries that king and queens wouldn't have dreamed of 200 years ago.
But I'll play the devil's advocate here.
Sure.
You have that now, but your parents were able to buy a house. A lot of people aren't able to buy a house now. The amount of debt that people have gone into over the years that, and all of the bad money that the government has put into the market has vastly overinflated, you know, not just luxury items, but everyday items. Um, so that, that $60,000 a year job that if you had that, well, oh, holy cow, Tom. But that $60,000 a year job that you have now, that 25 years ago would have been, put you comfortably in the middle class, now is barely making your ends meet.
But so I have a friend who is a legitimate Marxist, and at one point in time we had a conversation about that, and he's like, why is it that it used to be that one man could earn enough to provide for his family, and now that's not really true anymore. I'm like, you have a very selective view of that, because it was one white man could provide for his family, and it was in a world where women weren't really working. The fact of the matter is that there's competition, and lots of people want to earn their own money now. And if there are more people working and earning money, that's the nature of what inflation is. It actually devalues the currency. The more people who are working, the more the currency is devalued. So it's a tough spot to be in, but we don't want to tell people that they shouldn't work, because their work, the more labor, it actually does increase the value of things that are produced. More things are produced, but when more things are produced, right, they are inherently less valuable. When only white men are working and have full-time jobs, yes, they made a lot more money than everybody else, and they had this high standard of living. But once women started to enter the workplace, once equality.
Are you blaming the women? Are you blaming the women?
Of course, it's our fault. Fucking, of course.
Well,
fucking women, I swear.
I'm going to say that is that everybody talks about what it used to be like, has this idealized world when white men ruled the world. Okay.
Yeah.
It was unfair. That shit shouldn't happen anymore. And, whoever it is, I'm sorry, there's more people in the marketplace now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
no, I get it. And,
it was just the phrasing, sweetie.
Yep. No, you're right. As I said it, I'm like,
No, but also when you bring more people into the job force and give them money, they're going to want to buy things. So, back in the day when dad was dear old dad, Ward Cleaver was the breadwinner, you needed one, you might have two cars, but I mean, it was like a one car family, and a modest house in whatever suburb that they lived in. But you start putting more money into the household, they're able to buy more things. So they buy the fancier car. They have two cars, maybe even three cars for their kid, or, and yeah, we have, as part of the consumerist culture that we've really ramped up as, we got into the 80s and 90s. It wasn't just the mom and dad who had a car. Now it's, any teenager that lived in the house had cars, and, were living a much more lavish lifestyle than even their dad 40 years before. So,
right.
I love the stylized idea that y'all have. I'm not saying that you're wrong about some places, but that was not the childhood that I had. And it wasn't like abusive or anything, but I wasn't like living a life of luxury. I was slinging pizzas at Pizza Hut to pay for my car, and it was a 1985 Monte Carlo with the real long front, so that if anything hit me, I'd be fine. There was no doubt about it that if anything hit me, I would be fine.
Yeah, the other car
wasn't because it was pretty.
I mean, and those are all good things. And you're right. On the other hand, you had a job.
I grew up in a single parent household.
Yeah.
Like my dad died when I was 5. My mom went to nursing school when I was like the last half of first grade, the first half of second grade, it was something like that. Um, I mean, that was just I mean, she worked 2 jobs. She cleaned houses on the weekends until I was a teenager, and then she worked weekends at the jail while she worked dialysis during the week. Like that was what I grew up with, and I didn't realize that we were poor until I realized that all my friends, like, we would compare. 'Cause I mean, you talk to your best friends Christmas morning. I
Yep.
was so excited. I'd gotten my Discman and 3 discs. I was so, so happy. I got Nirvana's Nevermind, the Mamas and the Papas, and Elvis because that's what I wanted. Um,
Nice.
and I was so excited to tell my friends this, and he's like, "I got a golf cart."
Wow.
I'm sorry, you got a golf cart, like a golf cart, like a proper, yeah, yeah, like we're gonna go race them later. I was like, who's we? The other kids in my class that had also gotten golf carts. Like
That's
that's that's what I grew up with. And we did
Oh
not
yeah.
have a flat screen TV in my house, like my AJ as an adult's house until 3 years ago.
wow.
3 years ago, I had my first flat screen TV. I had to have a truck to haul off the TV that died
Oh God.
because it
Yeah.
was, furniture or whatever.
Oh, did you have
But
a
no,
one of those console TVs?
oh, it's fucking huge. I know the
I
back
love those
was
things, and
really,
they were
really
like
heavy, and we had
$4,000.
to have a wider entertainment center because it was so like stuck out in the it had a big ass, is
Right.
what I'm saying.
Oh, I remember those TVs. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, I mean, I'm old enough that I had a black and white TV when I was a kid.
Oh yeah.
Um, so I just have to quickly throw in a little trivia. You mentioned
Or
Nirvana.
teenage.
Do
Yes.
you know who Chris Novoselic is?
Yes, I do.
So Chris Novoselic, who is the bassist from Nirvana, is
Yes.
now very active in the Forward Party. Recently signed up.
Oh,
Really?
Yep.
he
I
left
knew that
he left
he'd
the
been on
LP.
like Muddy Waters like last year or something like that, but the Forward Party?
Yep.
Huh,
Yeah, so he left the
that's
LP because I know
interesting.
he was big into Gary Johnson's run.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, he was very big into Gary Johnson's run.
The
Um,
Forward Party.
hosted an event for Gary on the West Coast up in Seattle.
Wow.
Um, or co-hosted the one with Drew Carey. But yeah, he was a libertarian for a long time. So
Gee, I
I got
wonder what
one
would
long.
have happened. All right. Back to
All right.
Sorry.
So, oh, you mentioned a book, AJ. What was that book you were talking about?
Mockingbird by Walter Tevins, who also wrote The Queen's Gambit.
Okay.
LeVar Burton popped up on my Instagram and was like, "Hey, you should read this book." And I don't know, there's something I don't it's like instilled in me from childhood. If LeVar Burton says to read a book, you probably should read it. And it is about what you were talking about, Dan, where AI can do these simpleton jobs. The jobs where you're out in the field and the backbreaking work for us, and they can do it like nothing. What happens to humanity when everything is taken care of for us? What
Yep.
happens when we can push a button and we're fed? What happens if we can push a button and we're given new clothes? And it goes into the intricacies of society and how things break down. And you're talking about globalism. Well, in this book, there's a whole lot of people isolating themselves. And I'm not going to spoil it because I would like for some of you to read it because it's actually a really good book. But you discover maybe we all do need something. Maybe we all do need to be able to have ideas and have experiences, even if they're not all good.
Yeah.
Maybe we should have to go through some shit so that we can appreciate,
Yeah. I
bit
don't
on a
think
bit for
that
days.
we're gonna get to a point where, we're all living like royalty and just, putting a hand up and something
Right.
happening for us. I think that what it will do is allow us to be more creative with our time and creative of what we do. Um, you know, uh, the other end of AI that we've talked about is, uh, maybe AI does a lot of the creative stuff. Maybe they do a lot of the thinking for us. But I think that there's still a place for human ingenuity and human uh, developing things. And I think the AI will help us develop more of our brains going forward than just, um, us being, lazy royals.
Yeah. I mean, AI is part of it, but robots, friggin' robots. I for
The
one welcome
humans
our new
are
robotic
dead.
overlords. Exactly. But a lot of that stuff. I mean, like if you ever watch the inside of the Amazon warehouses now, the ones where the robots work, that's fucking astonishing. The robots come around and they move the shelves by themselves to the people who then take things out of the shelves. Well, the robots, the computers control all that stuff. It's astonishing. And there's going to be more and more of that, even without AI. And then, the AI stuff that's coming online now, you're right. It's very difficult for it to be innovative,
Yeah.
but it doesn't matter because really not a lot of people are innovative either. Most people, they see somebody else do something and then they monkey it, parrot it, try it a different way, something like that. So AI is going to be as good as 90% of the population at doing shit. The issue is going to be, again, as when we're on the cusp, and I just have to say it now that quantum computing. It's fucking. I mean, I watched a great show. IBM has a quantum computer in existence. It's small, but and it can only do so much. But they know that they physically can build the quantum computer now. And just to get into it a little bit for people who don't know what a quantum computer is, it is. Everybody knows. Most people know computers are based on binary, right? Little pieces of silicon that are marked as either 1 or 0, excited or inactive, the states that they call. Quantum computers work on qubits, which essentially is at the atomic level. And
Wait a minute, Dan. So this means I'm a 10.
a what? A 10?
I'm a 10
Yes.
because I'm
There are 10
excited
types of
and
people in the
inactive.
world.
I'm excited and inactive. So
Yes, exactly. Well, there are 10 types of people in the world, those who understand binary and those who don't.
there you go.
But in a qubit, instead of just having up and down, on and off, it can actually rotate and point to all the different spots and understand what those different things mean. And so instead of saying that, I have to use 8 bits to express a number with, up to 2 to the 8th, 2, 4, 8, 16, 3, 2, 6, 4, 128, I have to use 8 bits to express that. I can now express that in 1 bit, which is really, really small. It's actually the size of an atom. So you now have this incredibly small space that can store an incredible amount of information, and it can solve problems, complicated problems, really, really fast. For example, one of the things that's going to happen is when quantum computing, excuse me, when quantum computing comes online, and this is why there's such a race for it right now, every form of encryption that is currently being used will be broken immediately by the first quantum computer that has that capacity. So probably within the next 5 years, because they're so fast that they can take a encrypted passage and use every possible method of decoding it and say, oh, look, here it is. I ran through the first 100 billion cycles and I found it.
So would that render things like Bitcoin unsafe?
Well, so Bitcoin, the ledger part of it is still fine, right? Because I mean, that's just a recorded ledger and lots of people have proof of it, right? There's a mathematical concept of proof. However, people are going to have to start using non or quantum proof methods of validation instead of passwords, instead of encryption. And encryption itself is going to be very, very difficult to do because you're going to have to work on ways of keeping data actually safe instead of saying, oh, we don't care if our data gets out into the world because nobody will be able to hack it because we've encrypted it so much. Quantum computers will be they're really fast at shit like that. And I mean, what it is it's the next level of math. We can't know certain things because we can't do the math. right now. We just don't have the capacity. Nobody's smart enough to do it, and computers aren't powerful enough to do it. Like string theory is a great example of that, right? I mean, we sort of know that there are these strings and they vibrate in the universe and they affect everything, but we can't do the math because nobody's smart enough and no machine is powerful enough to do it.
Bunch of dumb monkeys.
Exactly. But quantum computers will be able to do that. And it's going to really, really change things. And so the idea that these quantum computers that are super powerful are going to come along in the next 5 to 10 years is when people think they're going to be there. Probably 5 years before the computer comes along that can break every password. Thank you, Tom.
Thank you, Tom.
You should show it, Dave. And then, AI sort of out in the world now. You combine those things together. What does the universe need humans for? And I don't know what exactly is going to happen, but I suspect that there will be a point in time at which there is free food and shelter for everybody provided by the robots. And
it ends badly, though. I'm telling you.
well, it may. There's a great piece of science fiction by oh yeah, here we are. He's tall.
He is really tall. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, and look, I see Tom in the background too.
Yeah.
That shiny forehead.
Oh boy.
Thank you, Tom, for sharing that. So there's a great piece of science fiction where the people eventually create this super powerful AI machine, and they let it loose, and it starts solving problems. And it was written by Isaac Asimov, and the machine asks for more things, more tools to discover secrets of the universe, and it becomes a huge money sink as they give it more and more computing power, and eventually one day they come in, and it's just turned itself off. So sort of to Dave's point, that there's a point at which you suddenly know everything, and you realize, life isn't worth living anymore because we know it all. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what the danger is. It's going to be strange. It's going to be really strange for future generations, because I think that that we are at a point in time at which we are close to transcending what our earlier lives were. Our earlier lives as humans. It's a crazy time. I'm a little bit happy that I probably won't be around to see most of it.
Yeah. It is very it is the unknown, and I know a lot of people will be scared as shit of what is to come. But all right, so I did ask for a fun topic this week to wrap up the globalization. What are your top five international destinations that you want to go to, and why? We'll start with AJ.
That seems stupid. I haven't even been to all the states that touch my state.
That's fine.
Let's see. I did not do my research. Can you tell? Because I'm
That's
like,
fine.
So there is like the oldest pub in Ireland. That's a destination that I want to go to. It's literally a hole in the wall. Like I
Cool.
want to be there. I wouldn't mind seeing England just because it's England. Um, hmm,
Is the Titanic on your list?
Not
No.
at all. Not at all. No, this peasant knows exactly where she should be, and it's not it's not in the ocean.
Because
It doesn't end well for me.
I have been making a new submarine out of cardboard and aluminum cans.
And you're inviting me? That's a little weird.
I'm just saying.
He's looking for investors.
So I would go to Machu Picchu. Never been. The Incan temple in the mountains. Um,
Right.
I would like to see Petra,
Mm.
which is the city carved into the side of the mountain. People who saw Indiana Jones in the Last Crusade. Uh,
The
that temple.
Nabateans.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I've actually got something very similar to yours.
Um, I I would like to spend a winter in Antarctica, even though there's nothing to see there.
So,
Uh,
Like a Antarctic winter, or do you want to be down there when it's winter up here?
I want to be there. Well, no, I want to be there for their real cold, right? Where you're inside and like you can't go outside for more than like 3 minutes. All that shit. I just don't want to deal with the extremity of it.
Okay.
I mean, I've seen some of the like remember the woman who was the doctor there and she had to remove her own appendix.
Yeah.
That sort of shit. Man, that's cool. That's sort of that extreme thing.
That's the next level shit right there.
Yeah.
so all of mine included like a hotel with air conditioning and a big old tub. Just in case anyone had any doubts. There's no roughing it. I'm not doing surgery on my motherfucking self. Like, no.
I would like to do Kilimanjaro.
Okay.
This giant mountain rising out of the plains of Africa. And then I think for my last one, I don't know, maybe Mount Fuji. Uh, something, but there's also like the little floating islands in Vietnam that were
Okay.
in the Bond movie
Yeah.
and some other movies. So something.
I got one like that in Korea as well.
Yeah, something like that. So that's my goal.
So my top 5, and I did more countries than anything, but I'll name places in those countries that I really want to go to. First one is Iran. I really want to go to Iran. Just the history there, the town of Esfahan, with the Blue Mosque, and just the history that is emanated from there. I'd like to go to Persepolis though, as
Have you
well.
ever seen the Rick Steves thing in
Oh
Iran?
yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing.
his whole thing. I follow this dude on Instagram. His name is Drew Binsky, who went to all the countries in the world. And he just released like almost 2 hour long video on traveling through Iran. The cool thing at the very end is he gave like probably 15 minutes of women giving their accounts of what's going on with the protests over Masa Amini. But yeah, I definitely want to go to Iran. Um, the other country, another country in the region I'd love to go to is Oman. Um, Seeing Muscat, Dhofar, traveling there just to see that's where the frankincense the gold, frankincense, and myrrh, that's where it comes from, and one of the best producers of it. Um, it's a beautiful country. So during my week of being off and relaxing, I've been
Celebrating your
watching
birthday.
yeah, celebrating about birthday, watching a ton of travelogues in the Middle East, and Oman was one of them. Iran was another one. Qatar and UAE. So very, very, very fascinated with the region. So I'd love to travel there. Um, Iceland, going completely off the path. I would love to go to Iceland. See the volcanic. Uh, you know the they have like little baths there that are fed from the volcanic waters and shit like that. Um, Sweden as well. I'd love to go up to Sweden, see both in Iceland and Sweden, seeing the Northern Lights. Of course, I've been learning Swedish, so chance to use Swedish on a daily basis. That would be really cool for me. And then the final country um, that I really want to go to is Mongolia, to see first to get into Ulaanbaatar and see what the city life is like there, but then also get out into the plains, out amongst the nomadic people that live out in Mongolia. I think would be incredibly cool. And then I'm going to give a shout out because you talked about Petra. I would like to go to Al Ula in Saudi Arabia. Um, it's it's the same thing. It's Nabateans, but it's a much larger scale.
Yeah.
And I think that would be really cool. They're really promoting it. Um, I do have problems with the Saudi government and things that they do. Um, I'm just same with Iran. I have problems with the government. I don't think that the people are irredeemable.
Yeah.
I think
Let's assume a perfect world where you going there sets the country free.
exactly. There you go.
So regarding Mongolia, there's an amazing documentary with Julia Roberts of all people, going and living in the yurts,
Yeah,
with the horse people, and just
they
amazing. I had
they're heated by dung.
Yeah,
So
I had a
very
friend
technical.
who actually lived there with them and made a film as well, and she said it was just amazing.
Yeah.
Um, it's part of, I think, what's fascinating too. I mean, there's a lot of places that I like to see, but there's a lot of places that I want to be. Like
Yeah.
I want to be for the experience,
Yeah.
and I think that part, like, people always refer to Beirut as the
Oh
Paris of the
god.
Middle
Yeah.
East. And I would just love to be there, like when it's awesome. Beirut, it's at its best, just like super awesome and stuff like that. And it's interesting, this new company that I'm working for is based in Israel. And so I'm probably going to go over there this year. And
Nice.
I'm like just thinking about how amazing that's going to be as a trip and seeing all the cool stuff. And it's funny because my wife is like, oh, but it's not safe or anything like that. She's like, I mean, it's all this shit going on right now. I'm like, the Israeli people live with that all the time. It's not. It just is what it is.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm just. It's a place that I want to go and I want to be.
I mean, hell, the United States isn't all that safe either. So I mean,
I was about
Exactly.
to
I'm like,
say, I was like, they have a mass shooting at least daily, right?
I could go to right. It's I can either go to Israel or I can go to Black Friday sales.
exactly. Same amount of danger.
Exactly.
Yeah. Um, but uh, Rick Steves, I really love Rick Steves' show on PBS. I mean, it's a phenomenal show. If you want to travel around Europe, but sometimes he goes off the beaten path. And he went to Iran one time, and that show is amazing. But travel really is a political act. It is you stretching yourself out to introduce yourself to another culture.
Mhm.
And, you know, uh, once you have opened your mind to doing that and and not don't be just like the, rude American going overseas and saying, well, this sucks because it's not American. Uh, Go over there and experience the culture and interact with the people because once you open your mind like that, you can't close it. You have to contemplate. There are other people that see things differently in this world than I do. I mean, shit, there are people that see things differently that live next door to me. You can't expect somebody who lives several thousand miles away from you to see things the same way you do, or from an American perspective. Um, just open your mind, get out there and travel. So one of the things we're going to be doing over the next few weeks is we'll pick a country at the end of each show, and the next week we'll talk about that country in a little bit. It's not as much of a big deep dive as we do with our normal topics, but we'll talk about that country each week. That's why I've kind of changed the intro to say our world. I want to introduce our world to people who are watching. So, but that's it. Were you guys ready for the quiz?
Yes.
Oh, that's
Although I
right.
have a joke.
What is your joke?
There's an American couple in there in Ireland. You talk about traveling and meeting interesting people. And a lot of people are going to know this joke because it's that good. But they're walking in the fields in Ireland and it starts raining and they scurry along and come into a pub and sit down and they order a beer and get some shepherd's pie made with real lamb and it's wonderful and they're enjoying it. They see a guy a little further down the bar and they say, what a lovely little town you have. We're so happy to be here. He's, oh, you think it's lovely, but you don't know the people. I'm like, oh, everybody we've met seems very nice. Oh, you think so, eh? Well, you know that bridge you came over to give you here? I built that bridge with my own hands. But do they call me Seamus the bridge builder? No. You know that beer you're drinking? And they're like, oh, yeah, it's very tasty. We love this beer. We love all the beer in Ireland. This beer is amazing. He's like, I invented that beer, a special blend of my own crops, brought it in. Do they call me Seamus the beer beer brewer? No. There's even the building that we're in right now. No leak. I covered this roof myself. But do they call me Seamus the roofer? No. But you fuck one good.
Oh, had to go cover ourselves up with that one. All right. So 5 things news quiz. Our context clues, we got looks like a roller coaster of some sort.
Stuck upside down. Yeah.
Supreme Court.
Yeah, Supreme Court decision on canceling.
Fuck those guys.
Yeah, fuck those
Oh,
guys.
I know exactly what this one is. This is those people who were stuck in the roller coaster that was upside down.
Yeah.
For like 3 hours or something.
Looks like a Chinese military, perhaps.
Not sure.
All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Feel free to shout out the answers in the chat. We'll share if you get them right or if they're really funny and you got them wrong. So, all right, question number 1. 4th of July celebrations took place across the U.S. this week with fireworks displays from coast to coast. Which city opted for an innovative drone light show instead? These are really cool. Have you ever seen the drone light shows?
They did one at the Super Bowl. It was pretty amazing. It's interesting because it is, they make the argument, and they're right, that environmentally it's a lot cleaner.
Yeah.
I can't see what the 4th city choice is. It's
Oh,
mapped
it
underneath.
is Los Angeles,
All right.
Salt Lake City, New York City, or Washington, D.C. Judging by the picture, there's mountains here, so that's going to eliminate New York City and maybe not Los Angeles, but definitely near Washington, D.C.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's such a fruity thing that I'm thinking it's California.
Yeah, I'm thinking it's Los Angeles. Do we have anybody in the audience? I guess not. Yeah, I'm going to say Los Angeles. We good with that?
Yep.
Oh, it's Salt Lake City.
Damn it.
Due to fire, that makes sense. Fire threats, and Hody got it too.
Yeah.
It was here in my home. Wow. All right. Good job, Hody.
Hody lives. Hody, you live in Utah. We need to talk about you getting involved with the Buckman for Congress campaign. Follow up with that offline.
All right. He also makes fantastic meats. I want all of his meats in my mouth. All right, question number 2. Which country is moving forward with a controversial plan to release radioactive water into the ocean? This is choices are Canada, Russia, Japan, or India. This is the Japanese Fukushima reactor.
Right. Japan.
So come get those 3-headed fish. They'll be right for the picking. Yeah.
I mean,
Chernobyl Farms chicken and some Fukushima fish.
It's interesting that there were never any consequences from the spill when it actually happened. Right?
Yeah. I mean, consequences. I mean, releasing that. There's radioactive water going into the ocean, but understanding how large the ocean is going to dilute it to a certain extent. Now, I certainly would not be eating anything with it as maybe.
I mean, to be fair, they're releasing it in their own waters.
Yeah,
and they fish a lot.
Yeah,
people.
Yeah, get some sushi, I guess.
Exactly.
All right, question number 3. Supreme Court blocked Biden administration's student loan forgiveness program at an aim to deliver up to $20,000 of relief to millions of borrowers. How many Supreme Court justices ruled against the program? 5, 6, 7, 8. Shamazel.
Haas and Pepper Incorporated.
There you go.
It's 6.
Yeah, it was 6. 6-3.
Breakdown on party lines, which is really disappointing because I would have thought that this is something that it's clear. It's such a separation of powers that nobody would want to say, oh, yeah, we're going to give that power to any president. I mean, even if you are, and, I read
How many powers have we ceded to the president already?
Exactly. I did read an interesting article that Ketanji Brown Jackson has actually been relatively independent. She has voted with John Roberts more than she's voted with Elena Kagan, which is interesting.
I mean, I think Roberts will be
he's the swing vote for a while.
He's going to be the swing vote for a while, but it's not going to really matter because if he swings, it's always going to be a 5-4 decision anyway. So
right. Well, but what's interesting is Gorsuch also.
Yeah, can you get Gorsuch to come over?
Exactly, and so it's an interesting thing. I do think Clarence Thomas needs to go, though. Actually, I think Alito needs to go also.
Oh, yeah, both of them.
These guys, those ethics violations are just terrible.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. All right, question number 4. My favorite story of the week. It was discovered on the grounds of the White House this week that prompted a multi-agency investigation. An intruder, marijuana, a spy balloon, or cocaine.
It was a little bag of poop.
Cocaine.
It is a hell of a drug. Cocaine.
If you want to get down on the ground, cocaine.
Some Cuervo Gold, fine Colombian. Make tonight a wonderful day. So lab testing for a powdery substance found at the White House on Sunday came back positive for cocaine. It actually prompted an evacuation of the White House because white powder.
At first.
Yeah, you don't know what white powder is, so yeah, it could have been.
We all lived through the anthrax. Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody sent anthrax to the LPHQ.
Did they?
Yep.
Lovely.
Lately?
Not lately. This is about 8 years ago.
I was like, because there's so many more suspects now. Sorry.
Well, what's interesting about it is I bet you that this is going to turn out to be somebody who hated Hunter Biden.
Uh-huh.
Well, you got to know that they know who did it, because you got to think that the public areas of the White House probably have so many cameras that I would say that if it was somebody who hated Hunter Biden,
they'll be caught.
That they would have already been released. That information would have already come out.
They're probably going to find out, and they say, it turns out it was Donald Trump.
It's been here since Trump.
Well, I mean, now he's accusing Joe Biden of doing cocaine, and it was like either he's Sleepy Joe or he's on cocaine.
Yeah,
exactly.
Y'all.
Yeah. I mean, I would actually like to see Biden on coke, like to see what that
might be amazing. Might also be,
might just. I mean, there have been all kinds of questionable decisions from the White House lately, especially with regards to the Ukraine war. But anyway, Facebook parent company Meta launched a new app this week, direct rival of Twitter. What is the app called? Reels, Your Space, Threads. I almost said something wrong. I almost said something wrong there. I was like, I read that. That's Snapchat.
It's Threads, thankfully.
It is Threads. Now, what's really cool about this is that Threads is part of the Fediverse. You guys might remember when I talked about Mastodon a while back. The way the Fediverse works is that your client subscribes to content on other people's servers. So even if you're using Threads, your Thread account will read, if you subscribe to my Mastodon account, you'll read the stuff that's hosted on my Mastodon. So I can't be censored because I'm hosting my own stuff now. It's not Twitter who's hosting it. It's not Facebook who's hosting it. It is wherever my server is.
No.
And my server happens to be with SDF. There are other places you can go. You can run your own server very easily. Now, Facebook is going to be running a big server, but they are participating in the excuse me. They
I
are
swear it
participating.
said something else, man.
Yep,
Only
they are
fun.
participating in the Fediverse, and that's a very exciting, really cool thing for them to do. And I think part of the reason that they're doing it is that it's even more of a slap in the face of Twitter.
So, a couple news stories that came out regarding this. One, so Meta has said that this app is not really directed towards politics and news. Although I will say that like 90% of the stuff I've seen on threads has been politically
Politics.
or news motivated. Um, the other thing was that Elon Musk is threatening a lawsuit or has filed a lawsuit against Meta for quote unquote poaching a bunch of fired Twitter folks. Dan, you are
I am frozen again
frozen
in
again.
a very attractive pose.
Yeah. You look like you're about to drop like a ballad of some sort. There he is. Welcome back. But yeah, so I thought it was funny that Elon Musk is going after Threads because they said that they're poaching and using intellectual property
Yeah, it's
from
completely
these folks, which is completely horseshit. But yeah, anything that gets us closer to Elon Musk fighting uh, uh, Mark
Mark Zuckerberg.
Zuckerberg, I think is a good thing. All right, question number 6. Earth saw its hottest day on record this week. What was the global temperature on Tuesday that exceeded all previous records? Um, oh God, I saw it in Celsius. I can't remember what it is. 62.9, 75.5, 99.9, or 130.2. It's not that high. The global temperature, I think, is like 62. It was whatever 17 Celsius is.
Oh, okay. Then it's definitely 62.
Okay.
17 times 9 is 90 plus 63, 153 divided by 5 is 31 plus 32 is 63. Yeah, see, 62.9.
There you go. Yeah, I'm an American. I don't do this goddamn Celsius shit. So
It's
uh,
so easy. Just remember, you
version.
multiply by 9, divide by 5, add 32.
There you go. But yeah, 62.9
Hey,
degrees Fahrenheit.
Dan, what is this in Fahrenheit? That's what's going to happen. You're down my phone a friend for that.
So, and you're like, well, that's not that hot. It's 62. That's not hot at all. But remember, you're
Worldwide.
factoring in the southern hemisphere, which is in the middle of winter. So the
You're averaging in all the places over the ocean.
yeah. So 62.9 is cause for concern, especially God bless my friends in Texas and the Southwest, New Mexico and Arizona have been dealing with it. So,
Mm.
all right, question number 7. Which city lit up the world's largest spherical structure this week? I know this one: Dubai, Las Vegas, Tokyo, or Singapore.
I would guess Dubai, but I don't know.
Nope.
You think it's Dubai too? You know
Nope.
it's Dubai?
No, it's Vegas.
Is it?
Yeah, I saw something.
You know what Dubai makes me think of, which we should also mention? Dubai Yellow Brick Road. Elton John played his last concert yesterday,
Yes.
He did.
and he and Bernie Taupin are going to release one more album, a farewell album, but they're not going to tour behind it.
Are they going to let Shatner do the sing it, tour it? That would be
Maybe.
awesome. Because I
That
mean
would be
that
awesome.
Rocket Man version was pretty solid. Yep, massive bowl-shaped theater in Las Vegas reportedly contains the world's highest resolution wraparound LED screen and was fully illuminated on Tuesday. Look at that thing. That's pretty baller, man.
So what the hell is that Ferris wheel? This is over by the Bellagio?
I don't know. I have no idea where it's at. I guess.
Yeah, I mean the big fountain thing looks like a Bellagio, but that's weird.
Yeah, I mean, they have the NBA summer league and the other night they had it lit up like a basketball. It was really I was like, damn, that's huge. All right, question number 8: tens of thousands of people in China have left their homes in the past several days to which damaging weather event? Flooding, sandstorm, earthquake, or wildfires?
I think it's flooding.
I think it's flooding as
Yeah,
well.
this is monsoon season over there, so that sounds more because I know there's like a big plume of sand coming over from North Africa to the United States. I haven't really heard about a big earthquake or, I mean, the other one that could be is wildfires, but I'll say flooding. Yes.
All right.
Devastating flooding ripping through southwest China with several areas issuing the highest level of warnings to evacuate. Concerns are mounting that the floods will have devastating impact on crops in the region. We
They
may
would
be able to sell that rice now.
exactly what I was going to say. And globalism will solve that.
There you go. Although, if you ever studied the Great Leap Forward and any of the Maoist things that he did
Yeah.
during his time, that probably won't work. So, all right, question number 9: the Biden administration is monitoring a potentially major labor strike brewing in which industry? Hospitality, retail, food, or automotive?
I have no idea.
I would say automotive. That's probably the most unionized of.
Yeah, and they're on the cusp of a lot of shit, so that makes the most sense to me. I mean, food maybe, but I agree. Automotive.
I
AJ,
mean,
what do you think?
there's been such a attack on
Everybody's
retail.
so upset. I don't know. Like everybody's angry.
This,
Who's the most organized? Automotive, probably.
Yeah.
yeah.
All right, let's do it. Correct. White House is taking steps to avoid damaging auto strike. Uh, hopefully, it's not like what they did with the train workers, telling them they can't have sick days. Members of the large auto workers union have threatened to strike over the industry's planned transition to electric vehicle production with new emission standards.
Why would they care? Why I don't get that.
Uh, it may, I guess, something along the lines of combustion engine production. Converting those guys to
Is the
electric.
rationale that the electric engine, because it's electric, doesn't break as much?
I guess I don't know.
I mean, electric cars are going to have these really long lifespans, but it's just weird to me.
That is weird, but yeah, that's.
Teamsters.
But that's the interesting thing. The labor unions have traditionally I mean, definitely within the last 70 years, have been very hardcore on the Democratic side. Majority of their money goes to the Democrats. Um, if the White House steps in like they did with the train workers last year, I wonder. I mean, do they still stick with the Democrats? I mean, who do you go to at that point if you're the labor unions? You're not going to go to the. I mean, I guess you could try and convince the Republicans to back you, maybe for support. Maybe it's a shift in the political fortunes of the Republican
You know
Party.
what though? It's so stupid because Toyota's not going on strike. Honda's not going on strike. Land Rover's not going on strike. So
Oh
it's not
yeah,
like, they're only hurting themselves.
they are only hurting themselves, and I don't. I mean, because most of the Japanese fleet are built in the United States anyway. German fleet as well.
So
Um,
so it's exactly what I said. I'm reading more of an article about it. They don't like it because electrical cars are more reliable and need less labor because
oh,
of fewer moving parts. So Ford estimates that the shift to EVs will reduce the hours of work needed to build a car by 1/3.
dang! All right, well, There you go. All right, question number 10.
That's fucking ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like,
Roller coaster riders in Wisconsin were recently trapped upside down for an extended period of time following a mechanical
3
failure.
hours.
About 3 hours,
Yeah.
30 minutes, 1 hour, 3 hours, 7 hours. That would suck.
Dude,
Oh yeah.
wait. Let's look at this picture and talk about the unfortunate font there.
Oh.
Scroll down a little further. Am I the only one who sees it? Okay. This is my
Yeah.
child.
What are you seeing here?
I mean, the last 4 letters, sort of, well, 5, but
Oh, the placement of where they're at. Oh, wow. You're naughty, Dan.
I am.
Hey, we did pretty good this week. 9 out of 10. A solid low A for us this week. So
9 in a row too. It's just the first one.
yeah, first one got us. What was that one on?
I don't know.
How did got it?
Oh, it was the drone show.
The fireworks. All right. Well, can't win them all. But we won 9 out of 10.
Yeah. Practice makes perfect, but nobody's perfect, so why practice?
Exactly. All right. Well, some good news this week. The United States declared the last. U.S. destroyed the last of its declared nuclear weapons. Now, I will say declared nuclear weapons because, or I'm sorry, was that chemical weapons? Yes,
That's
chemical.
not nukes.
Yeah, declared chemical weapons. Good news. I hedge it with declared because
Yeah.
I'm sure there's some kind of stockpile that's super secret squirrel.
Well, if you reading Facebook, I actually made a chemical weapon in my house this morning. When
I made it. Oh, yeah, you
did
some
some cat pee with bleach. Don't combine pneumonia. That's a disaster.
No, you don't.
Yep.
Oops.
Sleepy time.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I created a chemical weapon this week. So we went to this place called the Butcher Shop in Chambersburg, Pennsylvania. It's like kind of a quasi Dutch market, and they got really good food there. And they have these big soups, and I was like, they had this chili that was like this big, and I was like, hold up there. All right, so it was like that big, and I was like, oh man, that looks awesome. And I didn't see any beans in it. I'm more of a chili without beans kind of guy. I mean, I'll eat beans, but y'all, I cracked this thing open the other day, and they must have had at least 2 cans of beans in this thing. I mean, big ass kidney beans. I created a chemical weapon yesterday. It was Lord have mercy. War crimes all over the place. All right, but we talk about the chemical weapons, but they are giving cluster munitions to Ukraine. They've approved the transfer of cluster munitions. Cluster munitions. All right, look, I'm all for helping the Ukrainians. We've used this show several times as a platform for talking about Ukraine having the right to self defense and all that stuff. I don't want them giving white phosphorus weapons. I don't want them giving cluster munitions because those are the kinds of munitions that end up, like 70% of them activate on, when they drop the weapon.
Yeah.
That means 30% of those little bomblets are all over the place, haven't exploded. And what happens is long after the conflict is ended, some kid's going to find a ball on the ground, in their little village, play with it and blow themselves up. Or, a farmer's going to be tilling his land and blow himself up. These things last forever. As hell, ask the Cambodians how, any place that's been bombed with these munitions, it's not just a one and done thing. Yeah. And, munitions do have a chance of not exploding when you drop them. But, on a single munition, that's less of a chance. When you drop something that has like, all right, we'll just say it has 10 bomblets in it. and 7 of them explode, but 3 don't. That's 3 little bombs that are sitting out there that will be eventually discovered, and hopefully not by a child, hopefully not by a farmer, but hopefully by somebody who's actually looking for them. Um, this is not a good thing.
I, I I hear everything about where you're coming from. Ukrainians aren't proposing to use those weapons on anybody's territory except for their own.
Which is stupid.
Well, I mean, it's the problem is that it's really hard to take out fortified positions, and that's what they're having to do now. I mean, that's what an offensive is. The battle is always in favor of the defender, as the Ukrainians themselves showed.
Yeah.
And so, now they're in this situation where, I mean, to me, it is. First of all, I hope that they don't have to use them, but they're going to.
Yeah.
It's a bad sign about where the counteroffensive is, in that they're not able to dislodge the Russians, even though we gave them advanced tanks, stuff like that, and so they're going to need cluster munitions for that. They don't undertake that lightly. I mean, they're talking about bombing their own country, right? But it's interesting too that a lot of countries ban these weapons. It's such a weird place to be in, where you say, oh, all right, we're going to have a war, but we're going to have some rules. No eye gouging, right? No nipple twisting, and no cluster munitions.
No blows below the belt.
No blows below the belt. No biting.
Maybe a little nibbling.
For me, if you are fighting to take your home back, well, you go with what you want. I mean, I don't want them to use chemical weapons. I don't want them to use nuclear weapons, anything like that. Here, it's sort of a, I don't know. I worry that otherwise they're just going to be stuck. And so if they're stuck, then we're going to come up with worse escalations.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not very comfortable.
It's not a great solution.
Yeah, it's not a great solution. I'm in agreement with not using these weapons, and hope that they get some movement in the war without using them. But yeah, they're going to use them, and somewhere down the line, some poor kid's going to pay the price because a little bomblet fell somewhere else and didn't explode, and they found it and thought it was a toy or something, and the war is going to continue to kill people long after it's over, or at least we hope it's over by then.
I do wonder if there's a capacity to, if you think I'm going to retake this terrain afterwards, to say, okay, we know there's this here, and try to do something about it. But I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it depends. I mean, you can say, okay, we've taken the area, we're going to send in teams with metal detectors to scan the area. Still, stuff rolls into a trench and it gets covered over, and
Yep.
or drop from a high enough position, it's going to embed into the ground that you won't be able to see it. So, yeah, it's not a good solution. It's got to think that there's something better that would be able to dislodge the Russians. But all right, did you guys get? So I know AJ, you are on Threads as well. I am on Threads. Dan, are you on Threads? Have you run to Threads yet, Dan?
Have I? No. All right, that's not true. I opened up the Threads app to look at it, and I saw that it was on the Fediverse. And I'm like, I'm already on the Fediverse because I'm at Mastodon, at Fishman at mastodon.sdf.org. And so I've already got it.
Okay.
So I don't need anything else. And Here's something I will give people. Go to press.coop in your browser, and it will give you a great way to first create a Mastodon account if you don't have one, and then subscribe to most of the world's great media on Mastodon, which, the media is trying really hard after NPR and PBS got banned from Twitter or withdrew from Twitter to say, we want something where we control our own destiny. And so now most of the media companies are publishing themselves on Mastodon.
Interesting story. I don't know if you've heard about this, but it made news a couple weeks ago. And I follow some Canadian content creators, but Bill C-18 in Canada was passed, and this bill basically says for news or for search websites to be able to display Canadian content, specifically news, they have to pay the originator. So, what it's done, rather than, get some more money into the hands of Canadian creators, is, well, places like Google, and Yahoo have decided to no longer carry any Canadian news stories.
Yep.
So, interesting that we're seeing that where Canada has kind of shot itself in the foot a couple times when it comes to content creation. Not only C-18 but Bill C-11, which prevents or makes providers like YouTube and Facebook and content places like even TikTok to prioritize Canadian content.
Right.
Has led to some backlash, especially within Canadian media and Canadian content creators.
Yeah, it's pretty stupid, because why would you want your stuff to not be seen? People want to get paid, but if nobody sees their stuff, they're not going to get paid.
Yeah.
And so there are
Well,
other places that have, who's got, I think, the best solution for this right now is, let me put in a plug for my hometown newspaper, the Washington Post. So Basic Digital, which is what I have, is $10 a month. So in addition to being able to read the entire paper and actually get a PDF of the print version of the paper as well, I also get the opportunity to gift 10 articles digitally a month. So I can take 10 articles off of the Washington Post and post them on Facebook, and everybody get to see them without having to go through the firewall, which I think is pretty awesome.
yeah.
So they found a way. They found a way to get me to subscribe. And I'm not paying them, whatever people were paying for the printed paper beforehand, but it's $120 a year, $10 a month. That's not
When
bringing money back. And yeah,
when you're seeing the consolidation of news media because they're not making as much money as they used to. Certainly, I will admit I've got AdBlock Plus on my browser, so I skip a lot of
how
the
are you
ads.
not using? How are you not using Brave?
I don't know what Brave is.
What? Are you shitting me?
No, I'm not shitting
I
on
feel
you.
like I'm a bad friend. You need to switch to Brave. Brave is the best
Okay.
browser that's out there by a fucking mile.
All right.
So first of all, if you go to Chrome, and Chrome is terrible about this, if you go to any one of like the top 30 websites, they do a port scan on you when you go there to see. I mean, they say they do it to see whether or not you're infected by a popular virus or something, but they're doing reverse port scans. Brave blocks all of that. Brave has an unbelievable ad blocker built into it, the best I've ever seen. And you can also actually earn digital currency while you surf, and then use that digital currency that you've earned to pay content providers whose sites you have visited, and you blocked ads on them. So it's a very equitable way to do things. Please, anybody who hasn't done it. Did I freeze again?
You
Jesus.
froze again.
Let's see if I can just do it like
It's an
this.
action shot of Dan. All right. So Brave is the web browser. Huh?
Yeah.
All right.
And it's so good. Nope, still frozen. What the fuck is up with this?
The disembodied voice thing is kind of interesting, though.
Mm. Ta-da!
What did you miss? What did we miss about Quantum Leap? I don't know, Ziggy.
I don't know.
That was
I mean,
my comment.
I did.
That was the only thing I had to contribute to that whole conversation. Was I used to love Quantum Leap.
I did see a good picture that has all the captains of the various enterprises of the various
Ooh.
Star Trek series, and so it's got Janeway and Kirk and Picard and Cisco and Scott Bakula. I think his name is Jonathan Archer.
Yes.
And it says, after helping all the other Enterprise captains return to their correct universes, Jonathan Archer left home to whatever.
Sam never returned home.
No, he didn't.
Really?
I watched the first couple episodes of the new Quantum Leap, and yeah, he never returned home.
He's still alive, so they could do another a thing.
I know. I'm really curious if they will
Crossover.
too, though.
Yeah. Something where like he kills Ziggy, and that's what has to happen for him to get home.
So
Oh.
I don't know if you ever watched NCIS, or I mean, they're on like several different channels now. My wife is a addict of NCIS, but the
My mom
new
is too.
head of the group for the NCIS team was the guy that played Lumberg in Office Space, Gary Cole.
Yep.
And he fits in Gary, little Lumbergisms during the episodes. There's like a TPS report part and holding a coffee cup and all that stuff. So I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't recognize him. I was like, huh. They just did something from Office Space, and my wife's like, "Yeah, that's Gary Cole. That's Lumberg." I'm like, Lumberg.
What's that guy's also he's in Entourage and a lot of other things. That Gary Cole is a really versatile actor.
Yeah, yeah.
Like sometimes he's terrible. Sometimes obviously Office Space. Sometimes he's like the lead villain. It just really diverse.
Just a little to the left. Yeah.
All right, move to the basement.
All right. So, what country do we want to talk about next week?
Not this one.
Not this one. Yes.
Not this one. Fucking over this one.
Vatican City. Okay, we can talk about that.
The Holy See.
The Holy See.
Which is so different from the big
sea, a bounty sea.
I'm kind of afraid I'll get struck by lightning, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, I'm much more close to getting struck by lightning when it comes to talking about the Vatican. So,
I don't know.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for joining us this week, talking about globalism and all the fun things that have happened this week. And we will talk to everyone next week. John, you got something?
Just want to quickly say that I will be at Freedom Fest from Wednesday through Saturday. And so, AJ, if you want to drive down to Memphis, yeah, I know it's not that nice.
Well, no, Freedom Fest. I'm assuming most libertarians will be there. Fuck that.
Well, so
can we just hang out in Memphis? Just Memphis?
Yeah, we could hang out in Memphis.
Like the rest of those people.
All right, we'll figure something. We'll figure something out. I'll follow up with you offline for that.
No,
but my panel is really good. It's building consent culture in the liberty movement, and it's featuring Lauren Doherty, former CEO of YAL and interim executive director of Libertarian Party. Laura Williams, who is the managing editor at AIER.
Okay.
Olivia Rondo, who is a frequent commentator on Fox, writes for the New York Times, and definitely, conservatarian. And Josh Eckel. I have been pronouncing his name wrong the entire time that I've known him. Josh Eckel, who is communications director for Students for Liberty. And we're talking about how, consent is one of those phrases that, most Liberty people know the Jefferson phrase, governments are instituted among men and derive their just power from the consent of the governed. But consent also has to do with the fact that you shouldn't touch anybody without their informed consent.
Yep.
Without their affirmative consent. And as it turns out, Planned Parenthood has this thing, FIRES, to talk about consent. And I'm just going to go over it briefly, and then everybody else should come to our talk Thursday at 3:10 in room 220 at the Memphis whatever the hell the Memphis thing is called. FIRES is consent is lighting the right fires. Freely given, CF, informed, reversible, enthusiastic, and specific. Unless you get that level of consent, you don't actually have consent. So everybody remember that before you touch somebody else. And somebody's saying, but I want to kiss this person, but I don't really want to ruin the mood. If you're not sure that you have that level of enthusiastic consent, you shouldn't be kissing anybody.
Yeah.
That's it. Come see our talk.
There you go. All right. Well, thanks everybody for watching us this week, and we will talk to you all next week when we talk about the Vatican's and something else. We'll figure it out. But thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll talk to you all next week. I killed something. There we go.